Alright, Bob Buckley here with another Frontline Disc Golf form review. Today we have a backhand review. We have Christian on the right. We got Danvers Walls on the left. I'll go ahead and I'll play through the form slowly, and then I'll back it up and I'll do my review. Okay, so we use Danvers Walls with this form because he's extremely accurate. He's not a big distance thrower. And I know one of the things you're worried about is big distance. So I'm going to go through and break down the form completely, and then I'm going to give you a couple extra tips on how to achieve what you're trying to achieve and things that we might not necessarily see in Dan's form. So Dan shot neg 10 at Green Mountain Championship without ever throwing a 400-foot shot, so he doesn't need to throw far in order to score well. Okay, so first thing I wanted to say is distance can be attained with bad form. If you take a look at Josh Anton's form is not great. I'm pretty sure he knows it's not great, but he still throws 500 plus easily. So there are ways to do it, and most of the ways are by hitting very specific things. I'm sure if I broke down this form, which I haven't done yet, maybe I'll do that as an extra video, I'll see a lot of the things that are on my checklist, even though he has a bunch of extra added stuff in there as well. Okay, first thing I'm gonna tell you is get your left hand off the disc. It's like one of my biggest pet peeves. And you'll notice that Dan also has his left hand on his disc, but Dan is not grabbing the disc. Dan has his hand placed on the disc to check his angle of the disc, but almost immediately after he takes his first step, his hand comes off. Your hand stays on the disc for a really long time. And the reason that's an issue is because when you get to your reach back, a lot of times the disc will subconsciously follow that left hand, and it causes your reach back to round. You're rounding during your reach back if you follow that left hand. So better just get that left hand off early, put it down by your side, throw it in your pocket, whatever you have to do in order to break that habit. Okay, your X step, I tried to line them up as best as possible, but your X step takes a little bit longer than his does. So you'll notice Dan's X step, his knees are the joining point. It's nice and small. His feet are almost parallel with each other. They're both slightly, very, very slightly tilted back. As we go into yours, it's a little bit bigger. We don't really have that X step, and that's because your hips, get my pencil out here, your hips are turned backwards, where they should be at about, if this is a straight line here, they shouldn't be parallel, they should be very slightly tilted. So let me back it up. I think I'm describing that poorly. Let me show you Dan's. So Dan's hips are very slightly tilted, but his shoulders are still facing forward, or they're still like 90 degrees to his target. Whereas yours, as we move forward, you should see, my mouse is acting funny. Your hips are turned way further back. You're almost facing backwards. All right, next thing I look at is your reach back timing. Your reach back should start as your plant foot comes out of the X step, and your reach back should peak when your plant foot plants. So if we look at Dan's, as his plant foot comes out of the X step, you'll notice he begins his reach back. It's almost as if it's one motion. So his hand and his foot move at almost the same speed and at the same time. So here, we already see your right foot moving and coming out of the X step. And it's almost about halfway, and then you start your reach back. So by the time your plant foot's, you're shifting your weight forward, you're not getting all of your reach back. And as you can see, your left hand is still up by the disc. I'm like pointing at the computer screen and you can't see that, so I have to use my mouse. So yeah, as you can see, your left hand is still up here by the disc. You want it to be down compact. You do a good job of getting your left arm down and your compact as you're pulling through, but it's better to get there earlier. So yeah, your pull through is the correct timing, but your reach back is late, so you're not getting to your max reach back that you can get. Okay, so another thing I wanted to point out is you're looking away a little, just slightly early. So as you notice Dan's, and one of the things Nate Sexton teaches too, is this front shoulder should push your chin away from your target. You should be looking at your target until your shoulder pushes your chin away. So you're almost there, but you are like turning your head on your own power. And then when you come through, you're looking at your target again before you're releasing the disc. I think it was either an old ball golf quote or like a Will Schuster quote from one of his early clinics, I forget, but I say look up early to watch your disc or ball go OB. So you want to keep that head down, as you'll notice when Dan comes through. The disc is out of his hand and he hasn't looked up yet. He doesn't look up until he's coming through on his follow through. So as you come over, you're already looking at your target again, and you haven't looked at the disc go yet. You should be using your shoulders as where you're aiming. So you shouldn't have to look at the target in order to throw where you're trying to. The goal is to set everything up on a linear line. So if you're walking on this line and your shoulders are pointed on this line the whole time, and when you throw, you should be throwing directly where your shoulders are lined up. Oops. So yeah, that gets me to your shoulders are turning early, you're opening up your shoulders. So I will tell you where you're getting a lot of your distance, if you are hitting 400, is right here. So I like to use the term breaking the glass. I like to imagine that there's a glass pane right here. You should be throwing your elbow through that glass plane or glass window to get your elbow out away from your body. You'll notice Dan does it really well. Dan's is here. So if we imagine that there's a glass window right here, Dan would have shattered it. Next thing I notice is that you're not completing your weight transfer until the disc is out of your hand. So as Dan comes through with his elbow, his foot is off the ground already. All of his weight is shifted forward to this front foot. That means all of his weight is going behind that disc to power it. You're leaning back a little bit, you're not committing to the weight transfer. Your foot's not off the ground yet. Your foot doesn't come off the ground until you're moving forward. I'm going to go to your release of the disc now. You can see here that your hand is open. We actually got a pretty clear shot of it. Normally it's really blurry, but we got a pretty clear shot. Your hand is open, which means that you're letting go of the disc instead of allowing the disc to rip off of your fingers. So you'll notice as Dan comes through, his hand is still in a fist, and the best way to look at that is look at their if you look at their follow through, his hand is still in a fist. So just really focus on, that's one of the easier things to fix too, is focus on keeping your hand in a fist and letting the disc rip out of your hand. I said that in your follow through, it looks as if you're about to chase the disc down. Like it looks like you're about to sprint after the disc, which means that you don't have a balanced follow through. You're not balanced when you're throwing while you're off balance, which is going to lead to inconsistencies. And then, like I said, the weight transfer. You want that weight over your front toe. Currently, you're not using your body as the best compact rotation point it can be. So I'll draw some more lines because I like lines. So you'll notice when Dan is rotating. Oops. What did I do? So as Dan is rotating, his weight will eventually be directly over his knee. So his weight is over his knee, which means he's rotating fast as he can, whether your weight is not over your knee and you're rotating. So if I draw, what's going to spin faster, that or that? This straight line is going to rotate and spin a lot faster than this shape over here is. That's currently what your shape is. Okay, now when we go and talk about distance, this video is a little bit longer than what I normally do, but I wanted to make sure it was detailed enough for you. Okay, so I'm bringing in Haley King here, and one of the reasons being is because I took this video and I really like, it really shows one of the things that I like to point out to people, that sometimes, I'm not even saying that Dan doesn't do it, it's just harder, it's really easy to point out here because of this dynamic disc sign in the background. So there's a thing called, like the top pros when they're throwing distance, they either say that they make the disc levitate or they walk around the disc. It's the same concept. And I'll show you exactly what that is. As we come here and we watch Haley throw, right now the disc is directly over the crown of this dynamic disc sign. So as we continue on, watch where the disc is. It doesn't move. It's still directly over the crown, still directly over the crown, still directly over the crown. Her body's moving forward and the disc, she's not reaching back, she's moving her body forward and the disc is staying exactly where it is. Now that she's in her full reach back, then she starts pulling the disc forward, so it acts as a slingshot. And you'll notice, again, her hand is in a fist. She gets out, she breaks the glass, and her weight is over her front foot, her front knee. So those are the points I check. This power pocket, that's what this breaking the glass is actually called. That's called the power pocket. So you're getting in there, you're getting the max rotation because you're using your elbow as the best fulcrum it can be and the best slingshot it can be. So that's all I got. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned a lot, and hopefully you'll be consistently over 400 soon enough.